I also wanted to bring up, there was a hearing, the Department of Public Safety Standards and Training. They have a police policy committee that met last week to discuss a PPB officer, Corey
Mark, would
Budworth.
you mind pausing 1 second? We have an echo from a laptop
Sure.
that just started, and I want to make sure. I will also say that your 3 minutes are up, so if you could wrap up your final thought, please, as soon as we get the computer fixed. Yeah, please go ahead and with your final thought. Thank you.
Okay, yeah, I'll send the board a write-up on the Budworth hearing, because it's going to be something similar to what you all are going to be doing when you hear cases. So thank you for letting me address the board tonight. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Mark. Appreciate you
Thank you,
coming out.
Mark.
And I just looked online, and Charlie is not in the room or online, so public comment is now over. And we are moving to the next agenda item, which is the independent court monitor. And so I'm going to invite up our independent court monitor, Mark, Russell, and Antoinette, please. I'm going to grab you more chairs, so please come on up.
Good evening, everyone. And thank you very much for having us here. My name is Mark Smith. I'm the lead monitor for the independent court appointed monitoring team. I'm here with two of my colleagues who all have introduced themselves.
Good evening, all. Antoinette Edwards, Associate Monitor.
Good evening. I'm Russell Bloom. I'm the Deputy Monitor for the team.
I want to thank you all very much for making a little space for us tonight. We're very excited to be here and make a connection with you. We have watched the meetings that you've had as you've ramped up and are continuing to do so. We are very excited at the prospect of the further operationalization of this extremely important board, this critical oversight system that's been created for this city. And I want to thank you not only for making space for us here tonight to introduce ourselves and to come and meet you, but for the work that you're doing. It just means so much when it comes to police oversight, and I'm happy to talk a little bit more in just a moment about that and what that means to us and our team. I do want to mention that our team for the monitor is 9 people in total, so you've got a third of us here tonight. There are a number of others who spent the week here in Portland. We had a town hall earlier this week that some of you I know attended. Good to see a number of you again. But mostly, I wanted to make sure that we, as the monitoring team, had a chance to connect with you because of our shared sort of interest in making sure that the reforms put out by the settlement agreement are upheld, adhered to, maintained for the betterment of policing in Portland for all the people who are impacted by it. I want to talk about things that are helpful to you as far as what our responsibility is and our role is, and answer any questions that you have. Be as responsive as we can. Again, we can talk about our backgrounds. Maybe we should do a quick background for us, but then I want to really just open it up and try to answer questions that you have for us, if any. I'll just start with mine, and we'll go to my colleagues, and then we'll try to again have a dialogue if you want to have any. My career has been in civilian oversight of law enforcement for a little over 2 decades. I've worked with the City of Los Angeles and LAPD, LA Sheriff's Department, San Francisco Bay Area Rapid Transit District, which has a police department, and Chicago Police Department. And in all of those roles, my job at varying levels was to try to make sure that the agency that I was working to oversee was adhering to policies, was policing constitutionally, was doing so respectfully. I was responsible for conducting audits into all kinds of police operations, stops, use of data to be informed about force by the police department, and really a wide variety of other things. The goal was always to make sure that there is an independent, separate voice from the department itself that is holding the department accountable. Something I believe in and spent my career doing before I had a chance to do this work as a part of the independent monitoring team. But it's something that our entire team, I know, believes. We have a variety of backgrounds. You'll hear two more in just a second here that include others in civilian oversight, including a former president of NACOL, which was just mentioned by Mr. Porras a moment ago, the National Association for Civilian Oversight of Law Enforcement. We have a couple of retired law enforcement officers on our team, both of whom, pardon me, came from agencies that successfully navigated a consent decree or settlement agreement in their respective jurisdictions and had responsibility for ensuring adherence to those principles. We have data scientists on our team. We have some folks who really focus on community relations, and we are blessed to have as part of our team Ms. Edwards, who maybe will describe herself as a part of the fabric of this city, of the community, of the stakeholders that are focused on policing, and has been doing the work here for a long, long time. And it's a benefit to us that we have her amongst our team. You want anything more you want to say?
I think you said it all.
That's right. I'll have Russell introduce himself a little bit as well, and maybe just another remark, and then happy to have a dialogue, anything that's helpful.
Thanks, Mark. I want to be very brief, but happy to answer any questions that you have here tonight, in the future, via email, phone, whatever. I think one of the important things for me to tell you about my history is that I came to the work of police oversight and law enforcement accountability after starting as a volunteer police review commissioner in the city of Berkeley, California. That oversight entity, one of the oldest in the country, had been around since 1973. I felt very privileged and honored to have a role in that. I was able to move into this work professionally after that. I also worked as the independent police auditor overseeing the Bay Area Rapid Transit Police Department. That at work involved policy review, investigations into allegations of misconduct, review of every single use of force, and lots of other audits and reviews. And I've done, in my consulting role since retiring from BART, worked for Albany, New York, San Jose, California, Torrance, California. I'm sure there are others that aren't coming to mind, but I really appreciate the opportunity to support and uplift systems of accountability wherever there's an opportunity to do that, and I'm thrilled to have had the opportunity to work on that here with you all and watch as this board has been growing and moving forward in its work. And thanks for the opportunity to be here with you tonight.
Thanks, Russell. And the only other things that really come to mind before we try to see any questions that you have for us, we want to be as responsive as we can, are just trying to think about what our various roles are in this sort of fabric of accountability, of the settlement agreement, of ongoing oversight for Portland and the Portland Police Bureau. So there are a lot of different stakeholders, to be sure. I won't even attempt to name them all, but the CBPA and the OCPA are two critical ones. Where we fit in, our job is very specifically defined by the provisions of that agreement. The settlement agreement, and you may know this history well, or you may want to ask more questions about it. Both are completely fine with us. The settlement agreement has existed for a substantial amount of time, going on somewhere around 14 years or so in various forms and with various amendments taking place to it. For most of that time period, there was not an independent monitor, which is a common function for those agreements in other places around the country, cities that have such agreements like Cleveland and Baltimore and New Orleans and many other places, Seattle and Albuquerque, etc. It was seen fit a couple of years ago as the agreement progressed down the road and as some provisions were eliminated to have an independent monitor to sort of watch over the final implementation of the remaining provisions. And I think that's an effective decision to help have as objective and independent a pair of eyes as there can be, making assessments Is the city and PPB complying with the remaining provisions of the agreement in a substantial way or not? That's our job. We pay very close attention to the language of the remaining paragraphs, and we have our draft report that's up on our website. I can talk more about that now, our latest draft semi-annual compliance report. We can go into all of those things, but my point is to talk about what our role is in this fabric of accountability. We are there to assess compliance with that agreement. Nothing more, nothing less. But we always do so trying to recognize the importance of what that means for people on the ground. It's not just, hey, yes or no, was this box checked, so to speak. Yes, we'll make that assessment. We take samples of cases. We do deep measurements, etc. But we know that only through real bona fide compliance and sustained compliance and durable lasting compliance does it mean that people are going to be positively impacted in their actual interactions with Portland Police Bureau. That's the only way it's going to be really effective. And so we try to be mindful of that. We try to think about that as we do our community outreach, which we are proud of and are really active about. We try to maintain that perspective. But our job in this fabric is to make those assessments, report them publicly and to the court that's overseeing the settlement agreement and has been for its entirety, and to make objective judgments. Once the city has shown that it has maintained substantial compliance and moved through the process of proving that, eventually the provisions will terminate and the agreement will go away. And there will be room for accountability left behind for all the other players other than our team in that fabric, including this body here and the OCPA that's being developed now. And that's why we know how critical it is and we believe in it. Maybe I'm going on longer than I should probably, so maybe I'll pause there. And anything that we can be helpful on in terms of that role about ourselves, the settlement agreement, our report, all of the above, if you've got questions, we'll do our best to answer them here.
Terrence, please.
How you doing? My name is Terrence Hayes. How's it going, y'all?
Wow.
My question would be, you mentioned sustainability. How do you guys measure whether or not those practices are actually sustainable past when y'all done looking over them? How do you measure that sustainability?
Yeah, a couple of ways that come to mind. Number one, the provisions are of various types, but sometimes they lend themselves to looking at like samples of cases. When a use of force is kind of the easiest example, but it's not the only one. If we're looking for how officers are using force and are they doing so compliant with the specific provisions about force in the agreement, we will look in depth at a sample of cases and we will review the use of force investigations, the general offense reports, the body-worn camera videos, the adjudications of those cases, the chain of command reviews, etc. We'll look at everything to make sure that all the requirements are being met, and that begins to show us a broader picture of, okay, how are things really going in this 6-month period that we're looking at? We always look at semi-annual periods. But beyond that, the agreement has in its design, again, we did not author any part of the agreement, nor are we allowed to, or nor are we allowed to change it. We just look at what's there. In its design, it looks for 2 sustained periods, that's semi-annual periods, of substantial compliance, and we can talk about the definition of that. It's high level of compliance. It does not mean perfection, but it means significant compliance with minor errors only, roughly. Anyway, we look for 2 sustained periods where we have judged indeed that paragraph has been substantially complied with. If we get to that point, that provision may move into a phase called self-monitoring. It's a bit of a step-down phase where it's not eliminated yet, but the responsibility for proving that compliance will remain turns to the city. They have to judge themselves, and we have access to all the tools that they use and their conclusions to make their self-judgments. We consult with them on their plans and the methodology that they'll be using to make sure it's sound, and then we review their self-monitoring aspect. Did they do a solid job of it? If they do so for 2 more consecutive periods, 2 more semi-annual periods, then those provisions may be subject to termination. The parties can move the court to say, we have done our job in showing that not only did we comply in the first phase, we showed that we maintained compliance and were able to measure it ourselves, and now we believe it's ripe for termination, and the court can ultimately approve the termination of those provisions. So it's a bit of a phased approach. Once they are terminated, there is no more monitoring or self-monitoring. Once they are terminated, they are done. And that's the design of the agreement as well, to eventually go away as the end result of this lawsuit that's been going on for over a decade.
Thank you. Just one follow-up question to Elder Antoinette Edwards here. Somebody, as you described, is written into the fabric of this community holistically. Your vested interest, in my opinion, is that community members are okay at the end of this. Would you say that we're moving in a direction from a person that hard always shows up in these spaces? Do you feel like we're moving in the right direction? And then when it's all said and done and y'all disappear because they've meet those marks, how do you see us continuing to look over that from the heart of the community standpoint?
Thank you, Terrence. Community engagement is the heart of this for me. You can be self-monitored, you can be in compliance, but you can't mandate trust. So that's why this process, and I will encourage all of you to read it, because then you are holding people accountable. You, and I see Debbie, I see Copwatch, there are so many people that have their eyes on this prize. So my commitment is when they leave, and if I see you at Saturday market, I don't want to have to hide because I didn't do my part, okay? I want you to come and say, hi, Antoinette, well done. So to that end, we reach out to everyone, meet people where they're at. Everyone needs to be informed and educated. So when we go away, all the eyes are on this. I've been to VOA, Men in Recovery, Miracles. We've met with Pride Northwest. We've met with AMAC. And it list goes on. My point is we have to invest in people knowing their rights and to hold you accountable. If we're getting this right, we're all lifting each other up. So I want to make sure everyone is aware of what is expected, what's a low bar, what's a high bar, and who's monitoring the monitoring. So we're all in that. So thank you for asking that. I brought my heart into this because I love this community. And we've reached out to mothers that have lost their children to police. So we need to hear that story. So we're not just doing data. This is about the heart and soul. So I'll know that we did the best that we can when all of us are aware of what our role is and how we have to help each other, because accountability can be a good thing. I'll stop there.
Thank you.
Thank you. Sarah, please.
Hi. Am I correct in thinking that we're currently out of compliance because the CBPA hasn't been really, we're technically here, but we're not really functioning exactly, and the other prior oversight stuff has kind of been sunsetted?
Yeah, you want to take it on me? Yeah.
Thanks, great question. Yes, you are correct. The standing up of and sort of operationalization of this body and the OCPA are required for full compliance. And certainly while this is progress toward that, being able to check that box, it will require more work in terms of setting up the investigative office, including hiring the executive director, which I know you all have been working very hard on. And then once that is completed, moving into staffing and equipment and receiving complaints and investigating those. that remains an open item for now.
Kyle?
Kyle Ashby, District 2. I'm rereading the report in my notes. I wanted to have you talk about if PPB wasn't able to reclassify certain events as de minimis, what impact would that have on the substantial compliance finding for their use of force events? And then secondarily, can you talk about how reduction in staffing had an impact on your modeling for use of force in terms of like frequency?
In terms, I want to make sure I understand both questions correctly. In terms of our modeling and our sampling for use of force, the reduction, if that's what you're asking, the reduction had no impact on it. We put together in our first report a statistically significant sample based on the number of use of force cases, but we knew we wanted to look at more. And so on our subsequent reports, we kind of doubled that number and were able to look at more because looking at more is better. So if I understood your question correctly, the reduction in force or numbers as far as personnel had no effect on our sampling. And the first question, it's challenging to answer if I understood correctly because it's kind of a counterfactual, which is less of what we deal in as far as a hypothetical. There was indeed, as you're clearly aware, transition at PPB away from what used to be Category 4 force to de minimis, which has different and lower reporting requirements. We do look at de minimis force. When we take our sample, it is a randomly selected sample from all of the cases, but we also try to ensure that we are including in there a segment of de minimis force cases. We also included all of the use of force from the reporting period that involved someone indicated to be suffering from mental illness or perceived to be suffering from mental illness. So that all went into our sample to make sure we did look at those de minimis force cases. But it's kind of judging how things would change if that reclassification had not happened is a little bit beyond sort of what we do. It did happen. It's, again, not our decision for or against, but we know the Bureau made that change, and so we react accordingly and go with those numbers.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Trish? And then I'll also, before you begin, I'll just remind folks online to please raise your hand if you would like to ask a question as well. So please go ahead.
Yeah, the first one's kind of a, I don't know how really to even pose this question. But as we actually get into the nitty-gritty of examining cases, do you have any suggestions for us on how to adequately investigate so we can feel at the end of the day that at least to the best of our ability, we have exhausted what investigations we need to do? A smaller question while you're contemplating that extremely easy question, like telling us what we need to do. There were some slides that you gave out at the town hall. I wonder if it would be possible to share them with us. Because, for example, there was a naming of various community members and, that you had connected with. And also, you mentioned a couple things that were not in compliance. And I think it gives us an idea for, how much in depth you have been pursuing. But I see that the head nod, yes. So I'm going to return to the first question was, do you have any suggestions, any guidelines about how we proceed?
Giving my partner here maybe a little more time to think. I'll take the easy question and leave the hard one for the smart people sitting next to me. But I'll try to help out if I can, I promise. The second question. Yes, of course, happy to share those with you. Might be even quickest and easiest. We are in the process of putting those on our website now. I promise you that's not a plug, but I think as soon as tomorrow, if they're not up already, the slides should be on our website. It's portlandpolicemonitor.com, portlandpolicemonitor.com. And so that way you can always make sure to access them there easily and not have to even search through emails for them, but we can also send them to you for sure. Sound investigations and how to make sure that happens. I'm going to see if Russell can start. I promise to help out.
We could certainly be here all night talking about this. And investigations have really been the core of my work for most of my career. I really put a lot of stock into the importance of being thorough. Obviously, I know that that's potentially a subjective word, but I think there's should be a real common understanding about what that means for any investigators that ultimately end up working for you. It really, to my mind, means absolutely leaving no stone unturned, no question unanswered, no evidence unreviewed, or not failing to obtain evidence, not letting ethereal evidence expire before you retrieve it. These are some important tenets of thorough investigation on the front end. The clear writing of a report that includes all of the details related to the investigation, including how and when it was received, how the finding or recommendation was reached, what the investigative process was. I like to see that all included in a single comprehensive document with attachments as needed. And the last and most important piece to me is objectivity. Objectivity in your outcome, in your investigative outcome, but really a real objectivity in your approach to doing the investigation, avoiding confirmation biases, avoiding pressures to reach findings one way or the other. I think that objectivity is not only important to reaching the right outcome, but I think for a body like this, it is important to create a track record of having generated objectively sound and accurate investigative outcomes. And that's the way to generate buy-in and confidence in your process, is with the work product. I hope I've answered the question. It's broad, it's fairly general, but the takeaway is that objectivity piece, it's sometimes not easy, it's super important.
Thank you so much. Thank you, all of you.
Trish, if I heard you correctly, said, what can we provide or give you? And as I've kind of sat in on some of your meetings, training, lots of training, and you all have a very diverse mindset in here. I don't want to start calling names, but you always talk about money and budget. Is your name? Yeah. And you give sound things. I'm trying to say you all have that intellect to come at, you need to understand, you get to understand what we've done and what you need to be aware of to carry on, to keep us everyone in compliance. And community, people have had this experience, and I know Kristen, who's just stellar, probably have people lined up for you to learn from and ask these questions, because you're going to have to be thorough in what you're aware of, to support it or to challenge it. So I'll stop there, but I know if you ask for what you want, you'll get it. Right, Kristen? Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
I told you I just keep the smart people on the sides of me, so it makes it easy.
Tita?
I was curious how the rest of you would feel, but I would like to know if you can invite some of the community members that you have had work with you to come speak with us. I'd like to hear from the mothers and fathers who have lost their children. And I think that would just be really impactful to have in this room, and it would help motivate our group to get more in depth in our work and to engage with each other as well. I also just really admire how you guys are really effective with compliance, and it sounds like you're really well versed in all of the court mandated reforms, and I really want to learn more about your data and how policy changes are progressing in the community. And I mean, I'm quite out of my scope in that area, but I hope that we can get some trainings and become experts such as yourselves.
I remember you were the one that asked all the hard, good, long questions. I respect them. I want to say seriously about some of the folks that we have had the opportunity to meet them where they're at and share their experiences. It's quite an expansive list. So maybe if you can look through it and say this group or that group. We've talked to all the city councilors, county commissioners, Tanya Sanchez, well, down even to Salem. But my point is, what would you like? And in terms of the parents, I can give you the information for Pacific Northwest Family Circle. And they are mothers, sisters that have all lost their children to police. And we had a meeting with them, and it took a while. They had to have a consensus because it's really sensitive. And I'm not for triggering somebody's trauma without, so now that I've told you my story, what difference will it make? So I will give you that resource. I'll give it to Kristen. I've attended their, they've invited me to vigils. The last vigil here in Portland was from Keaton Otis, and it had been 16th year. And his father, Fred, each month would hold the vigil, and people still show up where he was killed. And I'm saying that to say you can have those people, but I know you'll be thoughtful. So if you ask Family Circle, they may have to. When I was a director of Office of Violence Prevention, I would bring those families together. That first Mother's Day, first birthday. So there's a lot in that because that's a part of how we got here. So I would encourage you to look at that list, and if you would like for us to do some outreach, or I would talk to Kristen. So that means you'll have to ask us back, right? Yes. Okay, just tell the city you said that. Okay, I'm good.
I have one quick thing. Thank you, Antoinette. You went where I was hoping to go and beyond it, so thank you. Just for what it's worth, on the slides that were mentioned before, our presentation that just happened to be this week, which again up on our website by tomorrow, I think at the latest. We listed a lot of the groups that we've had engagements with and individuals, not by name, but some of the groups that they belong to. The Pacific Northwest Family Circle is a really good example. As you've heard a couple times, and I'll probably say it before the night is over, we're really proud of that engagement because of how much it genuinely means to us not having blind spots when we do our work, when we sit down to write our reports. We need to be having those voices in our heads as we write. So it's really important to us, so we put that list to show people how much that means to us on those slides, so they'll be available to you should you want to look and see what are the groups that we met with and the types of individuals throughout the government as well, because that's important too. And then you reminded me of one other thing, in case I don't forget it later on. We want to be accessible to all of you as well, as long as we're in the role of monitor. We're very, again, grateful and appreciative of being here tonight. Does not have to be the last time should you want us to come back. But as long as we are sort of here in this position, we have a sort of a rule of saying that we're ready to listen to any stakeholder that wants to talk to the people who are assessing compliance with this agreement about their experience with the Bureau, about a positive thing that they want to share with us, about a question they have for us, about something they'd like us to think about when we are doing our next report, or any of the above. And so that goes for everyone in this room as well. We have our contact information on our site, and we can share all that stuff. My point is, you can always reach out to us if you want to have a call, a meeting. If we're in town, which we have teammates up here roughly once a month. Antoinette is here, of course. We'll make that happen. We offer that to anyone in the public, and that includes everyone in this room too. We want to be accessible.
So I'll just note that we are over time and we do have to end pretty promptly. I know we started late. Mark and team have been speaking for about a half hour, which is what we had scheduled. We're gonna do Corinne's question real quick. We're gonna do Madeline's question, and then unfortunately, we're gonna have to end the meeting. And then we can always invite Mark and team back again. So Corinne, if you wouldn't mind, please quickly.
Sure, Corinne Frechette. A twofold question. There are many advisory groups that have done a lot of work throughout the years in regards to oversight prior to our inception. And Training Advisory Council is one, FIDCOG is the other. And my number one question is, how do you guys relate and interact with those groups that have a lot of expertise throughout their years and different insights and different community outlooks? And the second part would be, how do you recommend we interact with those groups that are greatly valuable to the city?
Yeah, the first word that comes to mind is to listen, to genuinely be open and listen and find ways to hear their voices. That's how we've interacted with them. The coalition of advisory groups, I think, represents a broad cross-section of really important voices for us to be listening to. The Muslim Advisory Council, the Training Advisory Council, the Latino Advisory Council, and all the others. Yeah, there's a lot of knowledge and history and work that we ought to be hearing. And so we've tried to meet with all of those groups. We have met with all of those groups on more than one occasion. And we told them, you can reach us anytime for a comment, a concern, an incident, a question about a paragraph on the agreement, whatever it is. We've made sure that they know we are accessible to them too as we do our work. And so my thought and advice is to just be as available as you can as a group too, to listen to that. I think you're right to raise it. Now I'm worried about time. Sorry, it's a valuable perspective to hear, and so it's worthwhile.
Madeline?
I just wanted to say on the record that I would love to get any trainings, any and all trainings that you are willing to provide to us. So I just want to say that for the next agenda committee, that if we can make sure to keep that on our list of priorities moving forward. Thank you so much for offering that.
Thanks. It's a pleasure to see you up close and personal.
And I'm going to adjourn the meeting and just remind folks that the Pacific Northwest Family Circle is providing a training to the board next week. If you haven't signed up for a session, please do so. And we can talk louder. This meeting is adjourned. Appreciate your time. Thank you all so much.
Thank you.